Tiring nga cho chopanga gi hija che gi khada ka bo gi lingyu te non ya no shu non ken gi bimi yang ya zangsa gi bimi yang ya chonde ta shi de le shue ta tiring gi ni mo de be gi lo ji non ya ke chi mo ji cha go yo re de bi lo din jo se rin ya jana ngi ne be ji lana me bi uti nga cho bimi sa ya tu ge tay gi mu da khobo gi ni lana mi bi uti jinung kan sa chongero mo chele ya jana gi tanda bad lo dinjo ri ya chemi shudi yore yimi na ya tanda mandawa de karare le bina jana gi nandol ya nzamolin ge sanju yin lang khin da mina ta chi yin lang ge kocho gi jana yu nando ya lapa de ne jaro mo chele ya chemi shugo yore be non ya devi lo dinjo ri ya 비미슬 야 로메 봐 사바도 니제 비미기 투고 로송니 지바 사야니 나섬지 자나기 띵자 걸러는 올샤니 베기 치도 리슈 비미르데 짬에서야게 띵리기 링비고 요래 예미나야 잠벌니게 사케바토게 카송니 데바레 베노리아 비미 사야니 나섬지게 자나흉이네 디에네 렌제 베 미르데 짬에서야게 링비고 요래 예미나 자나흉 사키와츠네 탄다바 카툰 데바레 데는 신게 베노리아 비미 자다 투치 레시상 비미르다 짜디 제도로 셀라토아데 사키와츠게 카툰 데바레 예미나 잔나기 소샹조기 까창가 진조기 디모데 틴두사마냥 잠바니게 사키와츠게 템바레 데리야 나초 비미 사야 투기 딘 나요 테키네게 마레 जनागी देवी ने लोगों दिनजोरी ने या बेनो ने जारमची की कुबाता जारमची कलोती कंगो नंबरे खुशु सांबला जारमची कुबाते कंगो चेवी ना बेने की बिरु मेरा सब चुंगने जारमची ने इची तो तेबत लागे रसाने ये भी ना गांचो पिनी साया टुके तीन नायो जारमची जैसे की मारे जनानो या बेगी कुबात तंदा चे बनायो पिनी साया टुकी ना नीनो ने जारमची आरे जन्नातियों के कज़े संग सोलिया सिमेशी बना सानिन में ऐसा दुगुमारे नमत जुबीना सिंजों ने ये भी पीलू शिंचे सनों शिंचे जो थे कज़े से चलोंगे तो जिससे वो करते हैं गोया बनना मतलब मेरा सब तुम्हें ने जान बचलिया कुछ तक सेवा इसी तेवा ये वक्त में तीन गोरे लापा तो तंदा पेन होने आज लो दिनचर्या से जन्ना की जान बची कुबाता तिसो काय और ते इना या तंदा जनागी कांसिंग सुंजो के कचंगा चिंजो तिमोते जनानो टिंगोर पेनो टिंगोरे कुछ संभाला पेनो मिरत सब ते सके जानो मचले दुतिया ता इसी में बतेओ में छाकर संगोरे ये भी नया पेन जो पिनी सुंगिने लोगो दिजोरी ने जानो जिंजी में जीवा तिवा ते सके मेरा गे बात जिया ता मेरा सब जिया लापा तो गेगे चुकी कर शियोला ने नीचे जानो मची नीतुन ते तीन दिसमा क्रोंगी गेमो करजिन गेगोरे जानो मची तीन जिया की छनो इंजोता क्रों कर शियोला ना तिरी नीतुन तीन जिया ते केसों की निमुजरेस मौबा जो न्यूतो जानो मची मुसिन जिया के निमुज शागरेस देशों ता पेन जो गेगिन दा लोसु सिंगिने सा मिना ते गुगुरेस तंदांगा तो जना की तिमोतिया ने खुद ये दुतिया चिन तेंगो योर ते जानो मची सोंजिले चिन सानी यो हमारे पेन ने तिन शुगोरे देशों ता तिरी गा तो पेपा ता चिबो तो में समन लीन या मेरे कौन-सा लॉन्चिंग तो जना ता ताने ची सभी सलेंगा तो खते जे गोरे खते जे बतेल तिने सकी बादा में मिंगिया मोबोजी के गा चलिया गुंडा शुगो या खेगोरे ती करे तेंगो ना ngantso pe mirude ki lebe ko so doza chiri ya basebo tingore ti jali yangi ke injinon tsuga shi shochochi. My dear Tibetan brothers and sisters, foremost of all, let me thank you all for joining this white Kada movement organized by the 5 Tibetan organizations based in Toronto. Today, it has become very important for us Tibetans to show that we are deeply hurt and traumatized, that we are not at all happy with how the world is treating our His Holiness Dalai Lama and Tibetan people for the first few weeks. We will definitely not stand down until major news channels, individual reporters, influential persons of unconditional apologize to His Holiness Dalai Lama and Tibetan people. We will not let our guys down until our country goes see the lights of justice and freedom. I want to say that we Tibetans are ready to defend the legacy and statue of His Holiness Dalai Lama, even cost of our life. We Tibetans are ready to sacrifice our life to defend the statue and the legacy of His Holiness Dalai Lama. We did in last 17 years. We will do next 100,000 years stake. Tibetans are ready to defend the legacy and statue of His Holiness Dalai Lama at cost of our precious life. Vitalo! Vitalo! Long live! Long live! The younger generation of Tibetan Toronto, they're leading the leadership and movement. So I would like to welcome the president of TCC Youth Committee, Sevilla, and her committee to join here to give a speech. Sevilla.
That David in the conscious Nanglia. Manzu Tawin Mitang, Kobining, Kongsa Kamkin Chimbochoki, Kolia, Shimeki, Kunzu, Mambuchi, Chede Yore. The day Yinea Manzu Netsi Dine Karehakoson Sena, Zambulin Di Nanglia, Kongsa Cholia, Chedon Kagin Siemeda, Dine, Manzu Mixe Pebata Himela Rigitolia, Uti Tachimbo Tennis Yebadi. So the chimbo kagin siemeda. The pova ke goya chigimba hasebo koso. The terengi danger de gune ye kare shidu chunso sena. Ye chobo chomota mirap sabatse. Konsa chogi togi gombashi manzu loktuto. Mi samba sambo chi chaya da. Mi yarap chi chaya. Pegi ke dang rishung minyam gunzi che tokin chi chaya la. Beijing Nangor Nangsani, Simba Dine, Bugishudi, the Tadin Delia, Mazu Kongsa Chogi, Lamde Wo Jesse Peggy, Denda, Masi Pardo, Pesi, Mazu Mirap Sarbatu, Peggy Taptinia, Mutune, Gyungton Chi, the Tade, Kongsa Cholia, Semi Shuba Delia, Mazu Mirap Sarbatoda, Mixe Ganjun Chindaniki, looked to her, Tachiku, Mogishudi. The engine only at six needs to shoot. On behalf of Tibetan Canadian Culture Center students and youth committee, I wish everyone a good evening. In the past few weeks, ongoing baseless accusations have been circulating around social media concerning our compassionate leader, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. This affects millions around the world, not only adults, but youths as well, as you have seen with our sister in Belgium. However discerning the situation is, we have learned many things. We have learned how much respect His Holiness has in our world, how lucky we are to have him, how proud we should be of him, and how important he is, especially to the Tibetan and Himalayan community. So through this opportunity today, I would like to share a few words for my friends and peers, as we, the younger generation, the future leaders of Tibet, should strive to be an honest person, a compassionate person, a kind person who cares about Tibet enough to preserve and to promote its Tibetan culture and language, also fulfilling His Holiness's wishes. And especially after this situation, I believe that everyone should have the same expectations as me. So in conclusion, under His Holiness's guidance, until Tibet's truth prevails and until the accusations are cleared up, the younger generation, especially TCCC students, will continue to stand our ground and against the injustice. Thank you. Long live! Long live! Long live! We stand with! We stand with! We stand with!
Sevilla Youth Committee. I would like to thank to the TCC Youth Committee all the members. Now I would like to welcome the President of TCC Student Council, Onde, and her colleagues to come on stage.
Hello everybody, my name is Tenzin Woden and I'm President of Student Council at the Tibetan Canadian Cultural Center. I'm a lifelong supporter of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. These past 2 weeks have been difficult not just for me but for the entire Tibetan community and the millions of followers of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. It began with a clip that was taken out of context and then spiraled into a frenzy of misinterpretation and ignorance by His Holiness with the malicious intent to defame His Holiness. The Dalai Lama is a well-known global peace icon who has dedicated his entire life to the benefit of human beings and believes in oneness, humanity, peace, non-violence, love, and compassion. He's been recognized with numerous awards, including the prestigious Templeton Prize in 2012. It included a prize money of £1.1 million, of which His Holiness donated $900,000 to Save the Children, an international NGO that aims to end child slavery, exploitation, and provide education. Knowing him my whole life, I never saw the video as inappropriate. Instead, I saw it as a blessing for the child and His Holiness expressing love and compassion through his playfulness. But the media and some individuals continue to choose to be ignorant. The media is an extremely powerful tool. It keeps people informed on what is happening in our communities, cities, and in our countries. They are tasked with delivering information in an unbiased way so that people are able to decipher it on their own. That is not what has been happening. Media outlets continue to show this one-sided story, so I ask you to listen to our side. Do you think His Holiness, a man that has spent his entire life practicing love and compassion, do something with ill intention? The media instead should be focusing on the cultural genocide that is happening inside of Tibet as I speak. Millions of Tibetan children are being sent to state-funded schools that erase their Tibetan identity. Similar to residential schools in Canada, they are being assimilated and forced to learn Chinese and forget their Tibetan roots. I stand here today to ask the media to apologize for their lack of research. I also ask individuals who have defamed His Holiness to do thorough and unbiased research before slandering and writing an insensitive comment. Long live! The Dalai Lama! Long live! The Dalai Lama! Long live! The Dalai Lama! Tushina.
Next we have speech by Mr. Kesum Pinto, the President of Canada Tibetan Association of Ontario.
Nazo nima khashe nye liya de zombre di tanda sane shunu ki kudu shibe kab liya thari nashi ki khazan mima mangu shu phe yore thari ye mi mangu shu chi ki so lega sha lega ne gongba shu che thari di ki nimo di thari ki tuzi di khe chenbu shu chi zi che de phe sha che zang de ngaranzu de sane liya ani chokpa nga yore chokpa nge ki Gui Shiva Nashingi, Mima Dige de Peva delia, Ye Sopanga Changmek Sabshu de Tangu Tuchena Shui. That number of Ken Degre Kazan Sanimalia de Michik Dong Abjal House to Zombane, Ani Tari, Di Legu Paralia, Ani Legu Bebeki, Dumde di Haleveki Dumde Chembu Tunsu. Sanju Gungegi, Kazan di Nielia, Sanju di Tone, Ani Honskamgu Chimbucholia, Shimegi, Kunju Cheche, Naranzo, Peba Sangmegi, Manguchiki, Nigmakuvegi Gange, Manguchik Semnalia, Dajik Nizu di Kandechago Same Gange, Ani Tana Labdakalia, Ani Lukdu Zolia, Kunju Cheche, Dindegi, Ani Gange. 세상 강에 딘주기 토리야 안가주 강에 내주디 창고 멤버디 아니 잠불링이 뒤리야 뿡제 아니 쿠란졸리야 내주디 대세갑 세세 슈슈디 잠발이야 다 작바이 장애래 나가나 시기 간당가주데 CBC 더 저베기 아니 토론토 난 예베기 생유 귤람카네 땅안주 가산이만 있음 난리야 안가졸리야 추 대화 체제 내주 딘주 토리야 세세세기 고급 중으로 재산 대인도 잠발이야 아니 세세 제토베 토네 땅 저기 좀대디 갈라간 잠지도 신 되요래 이내 단도기 내가 제발래 단도 내가 제야 망고질 하대요래 다 개체지 가르쳐야 돼요르스나 예외 char이야 진호 공식경고 전부 초기 아니 내주기 뒤토네 개디 결혼도 다제기 생교 교남기 토네 아니 제게 자게나리아 시베이나 아니 당국거라 내주디 대용인 거래 단다 내주 가장 중계디 재산 대유도 잠발이야 대여배 표바당 아니 전문링리야 여배게 표바 창말이야 믹스에 배고 쉬어야 가리 쉬베이나 다 달람칼이야 진제 안 진호 공식 경고 전부 초기 제발 틀레기 토리야 아니 제게 잼배 쉬어야 진호 공식 경고 전부 초기 다바도 꿀레 교제 당기대 말한조 간조 신대는 게 롭루지기 배전 쉬어 나시래 진호 공식 경고 전부 초리야 안 템플턴기 하게 자가디 톱도 잠발이야 무 망체지 아니 부구역이 제도리야 아니 무디 마도신 소래 나와 딘주 잘람카 나리야 안 배워 상마 치제 딘주 마 규배 카운트도 제토베 있나 아니 되게 내주 상와디 마 망아 된투에다 딘데기 아니 개침 내주디 개침부 샤디겨 재산 디인도 잠발이야 디토리야 창매기 도나 제제 디토리야 창매기 무튜니 아니 쑥 개고야디 시오지 개침부를 했상거도 니네 내주 쉬고에 개체질이야 아니 다른 게 내주디 진호 공식 경고 전부 초기 lokdu soliya 제가 나니 할람 다와니 마즘스키 젤이야 아니 신에 내주 뭐에 임바디 파 뚜브제 아니 내주 춘지지 도스체네 당보디 아니 유튜브 나네 도스 균남카네 도스니 젬베슈 디네 칼리 트위터날 젬베슈제 아니 야가기 자과장에게 도스 젬베슈제 계지기 내주지 도스 차오래 재산 디 용고에게 규겐디 마 심주 제베가블이야 아니 도사디 야나 숑게 미윈 예전직다 아니 진호 공식 경고 전부 초리야 세매슈에 다가나시기 아니 세년다디 점불리냐리야 매바수에게 미규 독자 쇼치 년주 딘데스텐요레 재산 년주 템바디 아니 나란주 창매기 시메토네 나란주 지조 나리야 도서 지지 제제 모투니 나란주 지배기 레던디 dwili야 뽕제 아니 남귀리야 내주 중자리야 때마대어제 제체백이 내주 표들에 다가나시기 아니 계지나리야 벽이 탑주디 모투니 아니 랑레 케도에다 모투니 아니 계지기 딩제나리야 샤도에 다가나시기 아니 모투니 아니 소소기 슌예 부조리야 벽이 내단데 되셔게디 할레베게 개천부 차대고래 직동국제 계주스 나리야 개미기 수주지 나리야 아니 두두기 어디 마 매버속으로 제제 딘데기 수주지 빼버래 디 가르친 거 열슬라바이나 아니 가서 배바디 누구당 아니 어디 진호 공식 경고 전부 초리야 원주 수제 딘데기 개미기 레시지 직동국제 계주 나리야 도신 빼버래 레고디 사초부 중요말에 아니 디기 개미기 단대 차리야 디 능시기 다 다르기 내주 되기 돈에 레고디 양결 딘데지 빼기 개미기 채시체 되고요 재산디인도 좀 말이야 디 채시델이야 안가란주 페바 창매기 동len 제제 아니 채시디 dumde 마투바다 아니 채시디인데기 채시디 나란졸이야 아니 렉베찰이야 표저 제제 나란주 지조디 독서지리 지고야디 할레베기 개침물에 재산디인도 안딩에 믹세기 델리야 창매기 디톨 자로 나왔을 그것이외이 아니 타마델리야 다 다른게 레고디 나시 점물링 나리야 진호 공식 경고 전부 초리야 아니 대바여 댕에게 아니 지게 미나레 다가 나시기 아니 히말라야 레교기 미나레 다가 나시기 낭베기 아니 제 추리야 대대 제등에 아니 디강리야 땅나란조 페바 쪽이 깨케제 아니 점불링 나리야 레고 망고 쇼지 빼대요 재산 대도 잠발이야 아니 디게 창말이야 마란조 대 산엘이 여백이 페바 창맥 삽슈데 아니 얘기 더레기 땡제 디 규제 토체랑스지니 쉐이 아니 다된 데리야 진호 공식 경고에 전부초 고지 샤베 깨게 된 바다 토기 쉐드 타다 통기 주변 면대 슈베이 and the net and the day inginalia and we stand for the Zambalia and the Tamake and the day doing Yobe Kubadia Namikache and the Dalai Lama says Surana. We stand for. We stand for. We stand for. That's all to China.
탑제바 백 탑제바 때도 전틀라 때네 간주 주들링기 초초 울베게 때네 초바카 차마 아니 슈니 초뱅원의 그 차마라 투지체도 가든 치슈에 아니 캐생에만 슈니 그 랭기 빼바낭시 기들이 초바 나디 그 녀브른 거니 빼버려 아니 근데 이자 메마 빼 마시바 몸보 빼자도 차마라 투지체 가든 치 용 공거와 다 라양 그 뒤텔 원에 다 레브라 오야 봐 당에 마음보시에 마고는 가서 네네 말 땀세 진이 몸보여자 닌디니 그 달레돈 다웨 그 추숨 쉬어요 니 토마디 가르쉬어 있으나 배 나오는 쉬베 그 뱀 사야 죽는 게 실리 자체 메말은 니 가르쉬어 있으나 가서 땡주 쇼로 요니기 베베 처음에 그 저는 고사 장기 친구 철로 무슨아지 그 나부 전도 녹이 내가지 재면 남이 작으면 있으니까 딩에 배 나오기 나로서 샤리 동지 집에 그 배바티 jel이 남이야 와 대사 자미 그 니마 카시지 나로로 가르쳐요라 웨이버도 유튜브 근데 맘보지는 저는 고사 장기 친구 저기 아니 니자 미 자토나네 같은 함세다 록시 제베근데 네가 네가 빠 몸부터네 배 나로나네 같은 배면데 제 세제 제제대자 디젤 달에 세부질 가지는 남이한테 나부차가 말해스 나도 땡종로 되니 디제 카tum제 되게 말해스 뒤에 니마딩이 자밀 너 뒤니셔벤 가르셔야스는 니마 빠르게 갑도고 말해스 남기 니마 바라지 갑투고 말해서는 카세부슈야이 로아 숨바딩에 가르슈에서는 히말라야 그 리주 나로토 라다 우베그 좀블리 유르칼 슈베그 실로니그 아니 오늘 돈에 가는 거 뎀벨 자교 랑니그 대절 참마라 투지치 가진 체슈에 고고그로 봐 디츠이 니 시바디 가르슈야 있으나 좀블리 요베기 사쇼 거와 요베나 베바 창마 자코 거와 다지노 요베나 라양 그 투텔 레브레슈야 라양 그 투텔 레브레슈 카시 그 지지 나타바라도 티드 시주 마르초도 노버세 딜링이 주투네가 순다지야나라 로와 팽아싱아고로 배자밀 찐주 체니 네 단자바도 무슨 나토로 텔레 두지 다 용야요 말에 어디래 와 남한테 잘 몰래 메시니 주야이 고소와 니 슈니 수요르베나 다리근 니 랭기 디노로라 나자버도 치다르버세 전대지 자니들 타지도 고파요가 카세브이 와 어떤데 인사 다 몸부지 슈 마공오니까 또로도 사는 디니까 mambo pesha du tida nang shigan zoli chike yutraka kawayo nala chama lane ga roro soso ke sane ki saku ke gondalan drone ga di dentha da khasewu ji macha badi masun rogu gre sene tishwe kesene ngasu shuni ke shubi ngaro to toro don di Canada nalolo saku kandem ko kandre ji bina ngato manthune gende khasewu ji macha badi masun oya हमसे चेया करने का तो ये तो दिखे माटे बातें में से लेंगी पेगी ये से शुशायो मंथु ने पेया ये रुआ नाचो दिन के दाले याबो जी खोचो को माटे पे न मंथु ने का निमार रेचे यूं के चे दिन के पेया ये ने ना नचने के यूं या ये फेनी हो ना नंबर तो फेरोची ओ या
Nyenguja chete sum to chega nige chene. Monday to Friday la. Charte yoya yirba. Penny ona chete sumba nige nga to chega ba de mus. Pero cheese yoni yona. Rwa. Lengi peye. Daya ke tute mara lang gur ta. O tende ta kanga mama ji pero cheese ne ti chue ye. Tene nge thado dil kar chue sen kanji chute lig. Ngone thone ke. Teri sembal pe masi ba gane ga sen ti cha sura. Ta pu lo chukso da ba de je gane ga sen de ji che ne ka la yong go. Ta mi che de je nyelo su du ge de lo su gu du ge. Sonu ja chenpu je tang gu ro. Teri mayo ni de je lo po yo se ye ro. Ngaro tu ni no lo pe men chi chi zi ya zi yo si gu yo ro. Mayo ni thoma lo po yo se ne ti chue da. Ngone ga la de ni ye na da. Wall mese na na chama la lo po yo se ne shue. Tanda pu de je kande chi che gu du. Ro. Chama la pu de je lo tu chi che katin chis. Ngone ngaro tu mi pita sa ye love gu yor do. Terin dindri chi che be nga chu pe ba ngone gi chi be gi nima je. Chora ji ge le sa re se ne nga ngare ge nga rewa jab na shi cha sa re se so na je. Che de gu yo la. Cha ge re se ne ti shue ye. Tene ta 아니 다든들 상만아 쉬어라 자와 땡땡 잔서 끝을 쳐라 대바쇼 자와 땡땡 잔서 끝을 쳐라 대바쇼 자와 땡땡 잔서 끝을 쳐라 대바쇼 도지체 가든치 아니 마부 챤이 여기서 다 뒤지 전부 셰벤 안데 레오를 초안다 뒤지 레용고 들어와 근데 자 정말 이 공세슈야 자외가 세주 마차로 지스 the Shui, Tujiche Katache.
Some of the Tashle, the Indian Marshal Choje, and the TCC, Sozolagi, begin Masonson, Tawanashi Shunugi, Kuzaki, begin Masonson, and Chazam Mazi Dinarona, and a Pebasa Maimba, and Shugi Manguchiki, begin marching in Mango. 다나신 가서 더 많이 베게 밀리 망고치 되네 상매기 개도 레도 아니 인지당 지까지 주셔야지는 쉬어요. Hello everybody. Thank you all to my Tibetan brothers and sisters and all our supporters who have gathered here in huge number to stand in solidarity with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. My name is Pasang Lamo, a Tibetan Canadian representing Canada Dokam Chishigandu, an organization that was formed in 1958 to resist the Chinese occupation and had played an instrumental role in putting a strong fight against the illegal occupation of Tibet by the communist Chinese regime and consequently safely escorting His Holiness the Dalai Lama to India. Today, I am standing in front of this media house as a Tibetan who received protection and blessing from His Holiness the Dalai Lama since my birth to this day. I am standing here to express to the media like CBC and social media outlet that we Tibetans are deeply traumatized by the gross mistranslation of a spontaneous interaction that took place on February 28, 2023, between the Dalai Lama and a young Indian boy who requested the Dalai Lama for a hug. This show of genuine grandfatherly love was mistranslated by the news media, and over a month after the event, media everywhere ran suggestive headlines generating a firestorm of public responses on children's rights and condemning the Dalai Lama as a pedophile. His guilt was proclaimed triumphantly as truth. But based on what evidence? A sharply cut video entirely devoid of cultural, geopolitical context. Nobody else but Tibetans knows the Dalai Lama the best. Let me tell you, for your information, that the human cause of invasion and war in Tibet devastated Tibetans and their families, leaving many children as orphans, Schools have become an avenue for the Dalai Lama to safeguard the lives of the orphans, shielding them from the precarity of refugee life. In the absence of parents, the Dalai Lama offered children his protection and guidance, becoming their mother, their father, their guardian, and teacher in the process. We have many in this crowd who can vouch for what His Holiness meant for them and what His Holiness has done for their welfare, and for all Tibetans to survive together as a people. Tibetans are not only aware of, but have grown accustomed to, feel blessed by such emblematic affection from the Dalai Lama. Watching outsiders, including the world's media, sexualize the affection and proclaim it to be problematic was so disorienting and so distressing. The interaction that we saw in the full unedited video tracked with their own experiences. This was a familiar affection behavior between Tibetan grandparents and children. We Tibetans have personal experience growing up in our community. Elders in the community who interacted with children often offered genuine verbal and physical affection, including kissing on the lips and sticking out one's tongue. We want to ask which translation of affection is valid. Translation matters, as they have the potential to heal and to cause violence. The case in context is that the Dalai Lama's actions were made by outsiders, not Tibetans, who described it as weird and disturbing, centering their own lens on Tibetan ones. In order for an outsider to understand the cultural nuances of Tibetan emotions, one needs to spend time learning through cultural emotion. This sort of cultural knowledge is what we Tibetans are trying to share in explaining the Dalai Lama's conduct. The highlight here is how the issue is not just about translating culture, but is more importantly about the current politics. Not only did the news of Dalai Lama generate massive traffic for media and social media platforms, it also became an instant opportunity for bot accounts, the fake accounts, to expose Chinese propaganda on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Capitalist and imperial interest began aligning and targeting the Dalai Lama, a figure who the Chinese government has continually tried to malign ever since his arrival in India. It is today established the origin of the misleading and tailored video clip as Chinese orchestrated smear campaign against the Dalai Lama. Sinister design of fake account that is affiliated to Beijing is also vindicated by the fact that the entire Chinese embassies around the world actively participated in promoting Chinese government agendas and propaganda in the platform as its official mouthpiece. It was circulated widely in China and Tibet for nearly a month with the vicious objective to tarnish the image of the Dalai Lama among the Tibetans and the Chinese. What we do know is how the so-called breaking news was covered by the media like CBC and their reluctance to engage Tibetans. What we want to stress today to news media like CBC, NDTV, Hindustan Times, also Voice of America, to take responsibility for pouncing on a highly edited version of the event that was fed by a fake social media account without exercising any due diligence. It was a scoop for you guys. However, what you have failed to consider is the ramification of such irresponsible, out-of-context coverage of Tibetan people. In colonized Tibet and in China, images of and discussion about the Dalai Lama was banned. Having a photo of him can get you arrested, imprisoned, or worse. However, now the Chinese government is allowing media critics of the Dalai Lama to circulate. But any governmental expectation that the video and the coverage of it would disturb Tibetans are thwarted. Tibetans are reporting they are so happy to see the videos of Dalai Lama without restrictions. While news about the Dalai Lama has been presented explicitly through the lens of the culture and sexuality, there has been little acknowledgement of its geopolitical implications. Chinese officials are arresting Tibetans who speak out in support of the Dalai Lama, while reports of teachers and students taunting Tibetan children as schools in the West are growing. So CBC should take note of that. These are the real-life ramifications of this transnational event. Impacts on the lives of Tibetan people living under the Chinese occupation and across the world should be considered. For that, alongside cultural translations of acts of affection, we need geopolitical analysis of political violence. It is essential to note that the event has produced massive trauma for the Tibetan community, which remains steadfast in their reverence of the Dalai Lama. Not because they must, but because they have the context of the act of affection from their own childhood experiences. In summary, what we would like to urge media like CBCs and other news outlets, that any media coverage you do should include comprehensive and contextualized presentations that includes the translation and the perspectives of the subjects that you're covering. In this context, Tibetan people's narratives and nuances should be taken into account. We demand that a correction is made about this misleading coverage, sexualizing a beautiful and humane interaction that took place between the Dalai Lama and the young child in an open public gathering. A strong corrective measure be taken to rectify the gross character assassination of His Holiness the Dalai Lama in the news media. Secondly, Tibetans are living under the illegal occupation of Communist China since 1950s. There is a report of gross violation of human rights of Tibetans under the colonial Chinese regime. One of the most pressing issues facing us today, that is around millions of Tibetan minority children are being affected by Chinese government policies aimed at cultural, religious, and linguistic assimilation through a residential school system. Media should do a thorough investigation into this matter and circulate globally to bring awareness for the plight of Tibetan children. Thirdly, the integrity of the media and the journalism should be maintained by doing an independent investigation into any matters of coverage. Stop pouncing on news that are fake social media accounts. Last but not the least, the geopolitical ramification of any news coverage should be considered at all times. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for coming in such a great numbers. Your solidarity and support counts. Long live! Long live! Long live! We stand with! We stand with! We stand with! Tuchanam.
We're gathered here today as Tibetan people and allies who deeply want the truth to be heard. The media, as we know, plays a significant role in how a narrative around an event is formed and can shift public perception dramatically. Regretfully, most media outlets chose to share a snippet of the interaction between His Holiness and a young boy, providing little to no context, which only sensationalized the event and clouded public perception of His Holiness. I want to clarify and emphasize that Tibetans are and will always be proponents of freedom of press. With Tibetans inside Tibet living in a media black hole with access solely to Chinese propaganda, where an image of His Holiness is banned and any dissenting voices are deeply silenced, Tibetans especially are deeply mindful of the importance of freedom of speech, freedom of thought and expression. However, these freedoms should be exercised with responsibilities. The responsibility to prevent the spread of misinformation, to ensure a man who has dedicated his life to spreading peace and compassion isn't baselessly slandered, and with a responsibility to mitigate the marginalization of an already vulnerable community. A community that has faced 64 years of colonization, of genocide and displacement. Our language, culture, religion, and way of being is currently under attack by the Chinese government, and the most effective way for the CCP to target Tibetans is by targeting His Holiness. He's more than a religious and political leader for us. He's our hope, our strength, our sun beyond the clouds. And that is why, despite decades of scrutiny, the Dalai Lama has never been maligned by Chinese propaganda. He has continued his work of spreading peace and compassion around the globe. I truly hope that we do not let an authoritarian regime win this time. We cannot let the CCP undermine and discredit His Holiness, discredit our non-violent, peaceful movement for freedom and justice. At this time, it is more important than ever that we stand with the Dalai Lama. We stand with Dalai Lama. We stand with Dalai Lama. We stand with Dalai Lama. Thank you.
To my fellow Tibetans, what I'm going to share today will trigger some of you, and I'm sorry, but we know all too well as a people who have endured 7 decades of colonial dispossession and displacement in Tibet and in exile that we have no choice but to be resilient in risks. For non-Tibetans who are outsiders to our community and culture, and who don't understand why the past 2 weeks have been so traumatic to us, I want to share a few things we experienced and are experiencing as a collective. As we saw the global media cover a heavily edited clip manipulated for clickbait headlines and stripped of cultural and contextual considerations, Tibetans witnessed a violence that was both familiar and new. When the world rushed to pronounce that the interaction between His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the young Indian boy was motivated by harm, it was not only an attack on His Holiness and his lifelong legacy of spreading and practicing his messages of love, compassion, and world peace. It was also an attack on our way of being in this world. In great distress, day and night, we had to justify our way of being. That as Tibetans, what we saw in that interaction is a familiar, affectionate behavior between young kids and grandparent figure in our community. Those who were unconvinced by the cultural context of this interaction, they asked us for evidence, as if it's too audacious for Tibetans to be trusted on to speak about the Tibetan culture. Those who were convinced by the cultural context and yet applied their foreign lens on Tibetan culture declared that ours is backwards, is disgusting, and has no place in the so-called modern world. As if our colonizer China, using the same rhetoric in its attempts to annihilate our culture and identity, was not enough. Then there were those who have always denied our agency as a people and our right to self-determination, grabbed this opportunity to repeat their violent rhetoric that our quote-unquote backward culture deserved invasion and colonization. In addition to witnessing such profound harm on virtual spaces, we're now witnessing real-life implications. Our young kids are being bullied and harassed in schools by their peers and teachers for their faith in His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Our community is having to convene supportive listening spaces and panel discussions with health professionals to discuss how we can cope with the collective trauma we have experienced in the past 2 weeks and how we can mitigate the harm. Racism, ethnocentrism, colonial violence, these are the impacts of careless coverage and dissemination of a few seconds of heavily edited clip manipulated for clickbait headlines and sensationalism. In words of a Tibetan sister, Tenzin Pema, quote, all because one day the world decided to view an incident, such a pure, unadulterated act of love, compassion, and faith in our culture through their base-minded lens, unquote. For non-Tibetans who are outsiders to our community, it might be too much of an ask to understand the cultural nuances of who we are as a people. But from this episode, what we do ask is to pause, think, listen, and trust the people of the community before passing a judgment about them. Because it might cost you a few minutes of research, but it will save a marginalized community from further marginalization. And to media, do your journalistic due diligence of investigation and providing full context to a story. Because the impacts of failing to do so have been devastating for a community already experiencing ongoing colonization in our homeland and the precarity of exilehood. My fellow Tibetans, yes, all of this is so unfair. We didn't deserve to go through all of this. But as with every obstacle, we will overcome this one too. And we will remain steadfast in our fight against the Chinese illegal colonial occupation of Tibet, where the real focus on Tibet needs to be. Pegelo!
And the Tibetan lost their homes, their country. And the millions of Tibetans lost their lives. And for Tibetans are still in Tibet, they don't have any freedom to practice their religions. And their culture, their language, their history been attacked and destroyed. And His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, is the hope for Tibetans, is the love for Tibetans, is the family, is the future, is the belief for Tibetans. And for the 70 years, millions of tragedies happens in Tibet and even outside Tibet. And more than 150, probably 158 Tibetan has the self-immolations. And the whole world has a blank eye of this. And when all this happens, where are the media? And we all know there are many different countries, many different cultures, many different religions, that even millions different hatred among human beings against hate and attack to each other. There is only one kind of real and pure love. Bring people together, link people together. And His Holiness Dalai Lama, he gives his pure, real love. The love without boundaries, and the love without doubt, the love without condition, and the love without self-protection. He gave his love to people. He gave his love to the kid. And the people need the love, need the hope. And the world need His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, more than ever now. We stand with His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. 我永远支持达赖喇嘛，我永远和达赖喇嘛站在一起。I stand with His Holiness the Dalai Lama forever. We stand with. We stand with. We stand with.
사모님도 쉐디 땅로지 남사마 보체네 잠리용라코소 자니 테모자네 잠리시데트소 고네겸거이 셰노보 달레라마 고네겸 남사마 보체네 잠리용라코소 자니 테모자네 잠리시데트소 고네겸거이 셰노보 달레라마 고네이다이 셰노보 달레라마 야와 댄지 교수 야와 댄지 교수 야와 댄지 교수 화란제 화란제 야마편에 야마편에 드린데 캐나다기 총결 전부 토론토리아 야오르무첼리아 천시 쉐베 쉐베게 두주 딘데직리 양아주 사마 상좀 제니 계속 찌자게 돈에 아주 좀 두비에 대케와 상보래 아주 사마 라마 디기 제네시 디기 참만다 제네시 디기 전주바 임보 손자 드린 아주 아니 개와 상보래 손음 쳔보래 아니 참에게 뽑아채고야 두주 딘데직리 모농고야 다 아니 심박이 가주모 가를 납기 있는 아주 싸우는 켈링게 말이 단대 두주 딘데 찍래야 자물링게 선주 규람카 망부지기 가리시기 연에 가리시기 요버디 쿤조게 가리시기 메버디 쿵기기요 소소 마셴바 초박 제바 하바도 쿤조게 따주 년바 임바디 쿵세우 쉬우지 깨게요 디모 손자 안조 나란즈 수규 릭슝 곰수 가리 요바딜라야 이제 템부그 원에 네방예부 돈에 안 드린데 안조 정말 냠도 랑기요 선주 기람 칼야 시라시라 따에서 요 말에 가르진스는 딩상 선주 기람카 선주 용아타 때모 망아수고 रे मारे ngonsama sutta da tingsa sanju gilam khale yang nyentin la tai nywa yore temo ina lonye nang tai do di do so yore tinde mo songza tinde chedang gi to ne ani thande gyami thage nang le ya thama gyange miji gi ani khoju nyemba gi to ne karcha nishu chebe gi nyendong chungjung di temo nambo söni ani sanju gilam kha dila go khorche 친도와 뭐 차야라와 선주 규람카이나 초 간데도 니기 릭숑 가리데 갑종 가리데 제주 땅 안시 구그로 니 제민도와 뭐 차야라와 제장 안조 칼라 간 선주 규람카라 갈라기 알레 알레 갓 딩아 단다 알레 랍반디 안조 수균 릭숑기 돈에 검소직라와 제장 안조 선주 규람카라 갈라 그래 알레 이네 단대기 주주 년바 선부 년바 조 징엔디 야나 랑네르다 딩어도 자원이네 저기요 말에 선주 교는 칼이 양주 견주 지기요래 만조 컵 만조 파 갑동 당그리 논두 조워 징엔디 야나 슝네 거주 제베 슈 년바 다가랑 레다 딩어도 자원이네 논교요 말이 단대디 가주 먹고 가주 제외는 건조기 주요 체제 단대 내주 니 꼴래야 아니 주두 술바 로산시 라타 아니 Nidu Pyogi Kolia Langlu Ching, Kungatashila, Nijagi, Nyamshi Cheche, Seushu Tundwa. Chesa Dindegi Tone, and Anzu, Musu Te Yundu, Tande, Chawa Yemba Digi, Gabjung Zodi, Yana Shung Rangdam, Kuranzu, Yana Shung Kuju Chebe, Ani Sanju Gulam Kha Nala, Hago to Tade Nanglia, Ani Barzet, Gaba Nangshi, Ani Tande Tungian Chimbu Chungyandi, Dindere. Friends, as we gathered here today, as the follower of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, we consider it that we are most fortunate that today we are getting this great opportunity to stand for him and stand with him. No matter what you say, however you judged, we pity you because you neither had the time to research and see what went behind it. You not only misinterpreted a very cultural specific gesture, not only that, you rushed into making a judgment. You were judgmental, and therefore we shame you. In the Tibetan community, there are many languages. One of the most beautiful languages in the Tibetan community is the gestures from your different parts of your body. And if you do not know, let me tell you, just some of them. Let me educate you. In the Tibetan community, when we say please, we raise a thumb. And we say, kuji kuji. Please. Yeah, can we all say kuji kuji? Kuji kuji. Yeah, we all do this, right? Kuji kuji. Especially the younger ones, you must know. These are beautiful, cute, and meaningful physical gestures with which we communicate. And one great gesture is touching each other's forehead. The meaning is, it says that I love you so much that entire fortune and great life that I have, I want to pass on to you by touching my forehead. We call this udu, touching the forehead. And sometimes it happens that we are a little embarrassed. Your food is over and your guest has just come. So we say, Han. Can we say Han, Han, Han? Right? We lost something, right? Something is missing, or you just forgot someone's name and the person is in front of you. We say, Han. So these are interesting gestures. And in the traditional Tibetan community, there are older people. They usually carry gifts and sweets in their pockets, and in the olden times, in their amba, in their chuba amba. They carry with them dry fruits like apricots, walnuts, or even cheese cubes, what we call chugum or chura, or even sugar bowls. And we gift, the elders give younger ones sugar candies, apricots, and especially chura. The kids, they want more and more. And your gifts are over, and because you must have been distributing to many other people. And when you are done with, if you have nothing more to give, then the elders actually say, Ta me zo song. That's what we do. Now, if the media, they don't get this, it's your bad luck. But don't judge us. All religions and cultures have their own unique customs. People in Canada or America, you came from Europe, and in Scandinavia or Germany or Spain or Hungary, Australia, Austria, everywhere, you have your own unique customs. If you're forgotten, it's your bad luck. But don't blame us. We still love and respect our unique culture and customs. India is a great country with so many different languages and cultures, and so different that sometimes Indians don't understand each other. And all these Indians from so many different places, they too have their own unique cultures and customs. Now we are in a very modern time, and modernization is usually considered great and sometimes over celebrated, to such a point that these many cultures and customs and languages and spiritual traditions, many parts of the world are now getting lost. What is called modernization is actually westernization. And in the rush for this westernization, many languages are dying, many cultures are dying, customs are dying. Not only that, some of the cultures and customs are even shamed, called out. But we are not like that. We Tibetans, we love our religion and culture. Of course, there are a few things that we have been discontinuing. But however modern we have become, we still have many traditional cultures and we value them. We will not let it go. And if what is called the modern culture don't get us, it's your bad luck. We are not going to change for you. We will keep our religion and culture that we value so much, because these customs and cultures that we value so much are based on love and compassion. And love and compassion is anathema, is the panacea. It is the thing that is needed in the world, wherever you go. In fact, I'm a visitor to Canada. In fact, this is my first trip. I just arrived in Canada. I've never come here before. But I've been to the West, and I've seen at so many places, people are living cold and lonely life. I've seen this. And therefore, Tibetan culture, which is based on love and compassion, is what the West needs. This is not the time to bring about, call us names, or even to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. With this, I want to conclude here by reaffirming our conviction, our steadfast belief in this religion and the culture which is led by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the epitome, the symbol of love and compassion, the peacemaker, the savior of the world. Now is the time to stand with him and to say, long live! Long live! Long live! Thank you.
진주나야 그지만 그야다 아담도 차도여로 데니세디스마야 김비디스게 처마야 경로는 차고도와 디 김비마지 고안이야 어저께 터지바 아니 나 손지자위에
사람 쏠을라를
된지순지
쏜 다름살라 저거마 내 가득해
단들을래
저 휴당 내 뉴욕 할라 계산 쏠 잡에 캐라도 가봐슈
단단한 젤라벽이 모던 안 돼.
알레
레자스
다들 어번 대사때 태게매 알레 상하질 태게매 셀라쇼 무슨 젠틀은 그런 모델은 잠도 태고 그런 대대쇼 맞게 많이도 거죠 나 캔들 랩
아니면 드시잖아요 요나 아니 말한저대로 치 특지치 저 입주는 그때 저는 된 것이오 버탈로 사람들이 땡을 된 주면
잘합니다. 라마. China out.
Long live!
Dalai Lama.
Long live!
Dalai Lama.
Love and peace!
It's our culture.
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 Love
our culture.
Media, media.
The truth.
Media, media.
Tell the truth.
Tibetans united will never be defeated. 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 Long live! Long live! Long live! Long live! We stand with! We stand with! We stand with! We stand with! Love and peace is our culture! 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 Media, media! Tell the truth! Media, media! Tell the truth! Media, media! Tell the truth! Love and peace is our culture! 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 Long live! Long live! Long live! We stand with! We stand with! We stand with! Free Tibet! China out! Free Tibet! China out! Free Tibet! China out! China out of Tibet now! China out of Tibet now! China, China, China! China, China, China! One, one, one! One, one, one! Media, media! Media, media! Media, media! Media, media! Love and peace is our culture! 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 Long live! Long live! Long live! Long live! Peranzen! Peranzen! Pergi Dakpo! Pergi Dakpo! Pergi Dakpo! Jamaat Bene! Jamaat Bene! Long live! Long live! Long live!
Yeah.